Get in. Yeah, it's loud tonight. Where to? Doesn't matter. We're going to São Paulo, February 2013, but not to a crime scene, to a football stadium. Picture this, Pacaembu Stadium. São Paulo versus Corinthians, the Paulista Derby, one of the biggest rivalries in Brazilian football. Over 30,000 fans packed into the stadium. Singing. Chanting, waving flags, and among them, a 14-year-old boy named Rafael Mascarenhas. He was a Corinthians fan, passionate. Like millions of Brazilians, football wasn't just a sport to him. It was identity, belonging. Joy. February 3rd, 2013, Sunday evening. Corinthians won the match. Rafael was ecstatic. He left the stadium with thousands of other fans, walking home, celebrating, and somewhere in the chaos of post-match crowds, violence, and rivalry, Rafael was attacked by São Paulo fans. A group of them, armed with clubs and knives. They beat him, stabbed him, left him bleeding on the street. Rafael Mascarenhas died on the way to the hospital, 14 years old, killed because of the team he supported. Tonight, we're going to São Paulo. We're going back to February 2013. We're going to talk about what happens when football fanaticism turns deadly. You ready? Good. Because this one doesn't end with justice for Rafael. It ends with a question about how sport became war. Let me tell you about Rafael Mascarenhas, the boy who died for loving football. Rafael Mascarenhas Andrade, born 1998, São Paulo, 14 years old in February 2013. 8th grade. Loved football. Loved music. Normal kid. He was a Corinthians fan, born into it. His father was a fan. His grandfather was a fan. In Brazil, football isn't just entertainment, it's heritage. You inherit your team from your family. Rafael inherited Corinthians, black and white, Timão, the people's team. He watched every match, wore the jersey, dreamed of playing professionally someday. And on February 3rd, 2013, he went to watch his team play their biggest rival, São Paulo versus Corinthians, the Paulista Derby. Football rivalries in Brazil are intense. Flamengo versus Fluminense in Rio, Grêmio versus Internacional in Porto Alegre, and in São Paulo, Corinthians versus São Paulo. These aren't just games, they're battles, pride, honor, identity. Fans take it seriously, very seriously. Most of the time, it's passionate but harmless, singing, chanting, friendly banter, but sometimes it turns violent. Organized supporter groups called Torcidas Organizadas exist for every major club. They organize chants, banners, travel, but some of them also organize violence. Fights between rival Torcidas are common. Before matches, after matches, on the streets, and bars. People get hurt. People get killed. And on February 3rd, 2013, Rafael Mascarenhas became one of them. February 3rd, 2013. Sunday. Evening. Pacaembu Stadium. São Paulo versus Corinthians. Over 30,000 fans, split between the two teams, separated by security. Fences. Police. The match was tense, competitive. Corinthians won 2-1. Rafael watched from the Corinthians section, celebrated every goal, sang every chant. When the final whistle blew, Corinthians fans erupted in joy. Rafael left the stadium with his friends. Thousands of fans poured into the streets. Most were heading home, celebrating peacefully. But outside the stadium, violence was brewing. Groups of São Paulo fans, angry about the loss, gathered in the streets. Some were members of organized supporter groups. Armed, looking for trouble. They spotted Corinthians fans, identified them by their jerseys, their colors, and they attacked. Rafael was walking with a group of friends, wearing his Corinthians jersey. Happy, celebrating. A group of São Paulo fans approached, armed with clubs. Knives. Bottles. They surrounded Rafael and his friends, started shouting, threatening. Rafael's friends ran, scattered. Rafael tried to run too, but he was caught. The São Paulo fans beat him, kicked him, stabbed him multiple times, in the chest, in the abdomen. They left him bleeding on the street. Witnesses called for help. Ambulances arrived within minutes. Rafael was rushed to the hospital. Critical condition. Doctors tried to save him. Emergency surgery. But the injuries were too severe. Rafael Mascarenhas died at the hospital. 14 years old. Killed for wearing a Corinthians jersey. News of Rafael's death spread immediately. Social media exploded. Brazilian football fans, regardless of team, were horrified. This wasn't rivalry. This was murder. São Paulo and Corinthians fans both mourned. Both condemned the violence. The suspects were identified quickly. Witnesses gave descriptions. Security cameras captured footage. Within days, police arrested several São Paulo fans, members of a Torcida Organizada. They were charged with murder. The trial began in 2014. Prosecution presented overwhelming evidence. Witnesses, video footage, forensic evidence. The defendants claimed self-defense, said Corinthians fans attacked first, said it was chaos, not murder. The jury didn't believe them. Several were convicted. Sentences ranged from 15 to 25 years. But Rafael was still dead, and the violence didn't stop. So what really happened to Rafael Mascarenhas? Let's talk about the facts and the culture. Rafael was targeted because he wore a Corinthians jersey. The attackers were organized, armed, looking for rival fans to attack. Rafael was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Evidence. Witnesses confirmed the attackers identified victims by their jerseys. This is the most supported theory. Brazilian football violence isn't random. Torcidas Organizadas have a culture of confrontation. Fighting rival fans is seen as defending honor. Rafael's death was part of a broader pattern of organized violence. Evidence. The attackers were members of a known Torcida Organizada. Football stadiums in Brazil often have inadequate security. Police presence is limited. Rival fans aren't fully separated. Violence is predictable, but poorly controlled. If security had been tighter, Rafael might have made it home safely. Evidence. Multiple violent incidents at the same stadium before and after Rafael's death. After Rafael's death, there were calls for reform. Ban Torcidas Organizadas. Increase stadium security. Create harsher penalties for football violence. Some reforms were implemented, some weren't, and the violence continues. How many people have died because of football violence in Brazil? Official counts are incomplete, but dozens, maybe hundreds over the decades. Rafael was one, but far from the only one. Most deaths don't get national attention. Most victims aren't remembered. Rafael's case stood out because he was 14, because the brutality was undeniable, because it happened after a high-profile match. But he wasn't unique. Rafael's killers are in prison, serving long sentences. His family is shattered. His father, devastated. His mother, broken. São Paulo and Corinthians both condemned the violence. Both honored Rafael's memory. But the Torcidas Organizadas still exist. The violence still happens. After Rafael's death, there were temporary crackdowns, increased security, bans on certain supporter groups. But over time, enforcement weakened. The violence returned. Football violence in Brazil is a systemic problem, and Rafael's death didn't fix it. The meter's off. São Paulo is loud tonight. Somewhere, a match is happening. Fans are singing, celebrating, and somewhere, a mother is remembering her 14-year-old son who went to a football match and never came home because he wore the wrong colors in front of the wrong people. There's an ancient principle about tribalism and violence. That loyalty to a group is beautiful, but when that loyalty demands blood, it becomes evil. Rafael Mascarenhas loved Corinthians. That's not a crime. That's passion. Identity, belonging. But to the men who killed him, that passion was enough to justify murder. They didn't see a 14-year-old boy. They saw enemy colors, and they killed him for it. There's a truth woven into existence. That sport is meant to unite, to bring joy, to channel competition into something healthy. Brazilian football does that. Millions of fans support their teams peacefully, passionately, joyfully. But the violent fringe, The Torcidas Organizadas who see rivalry as war, they corrupt that. They turn joy into rage, competition into murder. I think about Rafael's last moments. He just watched his team win. He was happy, celebrating, and then he was surrounded, attacked, stabbed. Did he understand why? Did he know it was about his jersey? Or did he just feel pain and fear and confusion? I don't know. But I know this. Rafael died for something that should bring joy. He died for football. And that's obscene. There's a warning in ancient wisdom about those who corrupt good things, who take what's meant for joy and turn it into violence. Football is good. Passion is good. Loyalty is good. But killing a 14-year-old because of the team he supports? That's evil. And the men who did it will carry that forever. Rafael's father said something after the trial that stayed with me. He said, I taught my son to love Corinthians. I took him to matches. I gave him that passion. And now I have to live knowing that passion got him killed. That's a weight no parent should carry. Because it wasn't the passion that killed Rafael. It was the violence, the hate. The men who decided the jersey was worth a life. Hey, thanks for taking this ride with me tonight. This one hurts. A kid, killed for loving football. But Rafael Mascarenhas deserves to be remembered. Not just as a victim of violence, but as a boy who loved his team, who celebrated with joy. If this case affected you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories that demand we do better, that challenge the cultures that enable violence. Drop a comment. Tell me what you think. How do we stop football violence? What accountability do clubs and Torcidas have? What does Rafael's death say about Brazilian football culture? I read everyone. Share this with someone who loves football, who understands passion, but who also knows that no match, no rivalry is worth a life. Next case. New story. Same cab. Until then, remember, sport is supposed to bring us together. And when it tears us apart, we've lost something sacred. Rafael deserved to grow up, to watch more matches, to celebrate more victories. He deserved better than dying on a street because of the colors he wore. We all deserve better.